People need to be educated about how to actually use therapy efficiently. First, we need to develop certain skills of self-reflection, certain skills of being able to track one's own mind, certain skills of knowing how to identify and communicate with the felt sense experiences in our body, and certain skills of just mapping out a plan of healing and how to begin to implement it. The first step is a process where we are preparing to be able to go deeper into other levels of the inner work. But we can't even get there before assembling step by step a toolkit. Inner work is mostly about awareness, about grief and learning the grieving skills that lead to a clean slate, a clean terrain, free of pesticides and weeds and bad debris that is ready for the new flowery crop. Many people feel sick and tired of their situation, but they still do not make a commitment to begin. They simply don't. Oftentimes we can be very sophisticated at creating our own confusion as an obstacle, and we can be very sophisticated at putting up smoke and mirrors to go through some motions to make it appear as if we are trying to engage our healing work. But at the end of the day, when we really look in the mirror, we really haven't done anything. We have not clarified a plan of healing and the pace in which we are going to start working at it on a regular basis. Inner work is about self-accountability. It is about focus. It is about discipline. It is about boundaries. It is about self-care. It is an act of self-love. When you are put on the spot and someone asks you, "What are you working on with regards to your healing work today?" you need an answer. You need clarity. You need to have put in the investment on some contemplative practice to allow yourself to settle and for some focus to come into your awareness that says, "Yes, I'm working on grief. I'm working on boundaries. I'm working on shame. I'm working on my relationship to self. I'm working on my relationship to basic self-care. I'm working on my relationship to family. I'm working on my partner relationships. I'm working on my relationship with food, exercise, drugs, leisure, employment." And if you cannot answer that question, then the other things that you think you're trying to do around healing work are empty efforts. You're not going to see the momentum. You're not going to see any identifiable change in your ability to learn new skills of relating, in your ability to show up a little differently in your life, in your ability to have a deeper grounded sense of knowing of who you are, of what you want, and what you're willing to do to get healthy and happy. This all comes down to, are you ready to change? Are you ready to heal? Are you ready to do this work? Many people have good intentions and they very sincerely say, "Yes, I am ready." What I am proposing to you here on YouTube and in my private practice is a series of tools that I have put together after years and years of constant inner work with myself, my loved ones, and my clients. This toolkit is the result of thousands of hours of trial and error, of countless forms of self-directed healing work. This might all sound very, very complicated, but it doesn't need to be. What is actually happening is that we only need the clarity of intention and the decision that we want to start. We also need commitment and structure and a community, or at least a work buddy to accompany us on the path. However, this is not some type of a new quick fix, the next life hack to get you into a different reality at the end of some 10 weeks process. This is about investing your time and your focus. Can you put this on your calendar? Can you create a quiet, contemplative space to enter a dialogue with yourself where you say, "Self, what do you need? Self, I'm going to take the next 20 minutes to just hang out and be intentional, be intelligent, be compassionate, and also be a little serious." Again, this is not for the faint of heart. When we're talking about suffering, when we're talking about crushing suffering, and when we're talking about a suffering that has very real-world consequences on shutting us down as a person and also denying us relationships where we feel loved and where we're even able to identify partners who are capable of loving us back, in my opinion, that's pretty serious. As a human being, I also joined this challenge to create those types of relationships in my life that have sustainability, that have longevity, and that provide that level of secure attachment for me personally. And I'm assuming if you got this far on this video, for you also, this is really important, and that's how we come full circle. Back to where there's an urgency, our hair is on fire, and yes, we know we're ready to do healing work. We have that sincerity. Now, are we able to put in the effort, and are we going to put in the necessary work? The number one reason people seem to advance in the face of pursuing meaningful, life-changing inner work comes back to being too busy. And yes, I know that is a legitimate response, and the reality of life is very taxing, and people are working 2 jobs and have to do the laundry and have children But keep in mind that while you're doing all these other things, your hair is on fire, and your head will soon be engulfed in that fire at any moment now. What is in fact happening is that you are mirroring the neglect and the abandonment that was brought onto you through your life history, most probably in your family system and in your family relationships, where you have a core wound around being abandoned, rejected, neglected, or ignored, and you have integrated that way of being treated as being you, and you actually treat yourself the same way. So by denying yourself, by avoiding to create a very clear, concrete, disciplined, focused, self-directed healing plan and mapping it out, you're neglecting yourself, and you will not be able to own directly the pain of saying, I've given up on myself again. I'm so overwhelmed and confused about what to do in my healing work. Therefore, I'm going to abandon myself and continue to do the same thing I've always done. And I can at least say I've tried to pursue some healing work. I've tried that program. I've tried to engage in that meditation. I've tried to take yoga classes. And this is how it becomes really challenging. This is the moment where we have to have compassion for our habitual behaviors, the obstacles, the lack of discipline. We have to have empathy for ourselves that we are creatures of habit. We have to have empathy for ourselves that we do lack a lot of agency to be able to really move these things forward. But we also have to see it in a no bullshit kind of way. Be honest with ourselves and say, trying is, in fact, a distraction that hides the habitual giving up on ourselves, and acknowledge that we did not clearly invest commitment and time and focus. This is what we do to ourselves repeatedly. There seems to exist a sort of a cheerleader inner agenda. Let's get on board with this new technique, with that new program, with following that new person. But finally, what's going to happen is that we fizzle out and we implode and we feel exhausted, we feel sick and tired. Do you see the loop? So the goal here is self-directed healing that we have identified really clearly. The next step is about having clarity of where to focus our self-directed healing. The third, we need a concrete plan. First, pick your area and frequency of engaging in this inner work. It's your choice. Do you know how much is your hair on fire? You must know if you can afford to sit there and burn. This cannot be about, oh, I'll get to it once in a while. I'll do it whenever I get to it. What I am suggesting, what I am proposing, is surely not about being a window shopper to your own life. This is not about saying, oh yeah, I will casually fold this process into my life whenever I get to it. The type of people that I'm targeting, and you might be one of them, is someone who values staying focused and committed to healing work because you know that you need to create some change now. And so, therefore, the first thing you need to do is decide on your commitment to participate and pick the frequency of participation. This could be daily, this could be 2 times a week, this could be 3 times a week, which is what I recommend. So at this moment, right now, make a choice for you. No matter who you are, what you are working on, what you're doing, if you're doing some program, if you're in therapy, if you are practicing your own process of ritualized healing work, wherever you live in the world, just where you're at in your life at this moment, make a commitment. You have got to make a choice. You can't sit on the fence and then 6 months later wonder why you have so much tension and drama in your relationships and continually keep repeating the same old pattern that you always have. You are planting the seeds today of more relationships not working out if you continue to ignore what you need to do around your self-directed healing. We are planting the seeds of our suffering today that will show up in the future, and this shows up most obviously in relationships. If I was into research more, I think I could even create a calendar of the cycle and the frequency in which couples create drama, argue, push each other away through repeating old dysfunctional patterns, because over the years, I have become aware of this continuous cycle of the next drama, tension, attachment, distress, old patterns. What is needed is that we break down and identify what are the ingredients that go into creating this recipe of dysfunctional relating, and then we can see how we can begin to take the ingredients out or change the ingredients and come to change the recipe into one that allows us to get close and experience intimacy and connection. If you create a commitment and a frequency to address your healing work, you will also be creating a commitment to continually observe what your patterns of relating are and where can you create some workable, identifiable, manageable change. Inner work is about what it means to be a human being with a mind that reflects upon itself, who desires creating connection for the sake of safety and trust and closeness, and finding emotional companionship, emotional closeness in order to thrive in this world and all of the obstacles that get in the way of allowing us to do that. Creating a commitment and a frequency to begin, and a commitment and a frequency of how often you are going to focus on your work, is a decision, and sometimes a necessity that you are not going to continue to go down the path that you have always gone down to. Once that decision to start has been made, and once your engagement has been established, pick what are you going to do on those 2 times, 3 times, 4 times a week that you allocated to this process. Again, it's back to the degree of seriousness and clarity and focus that you want to bring to this. You can't be wishy-washy and say, oh yeah, I'm sort of doing healing work because I'm just sort of going with the flow. You need a plan and a path. Again, not everyone's going to resonate with this message because there are many, many ways to approach this. In each person's life, there is going to be a chapter, a period of time when we're taking a softer, more organic approach. It all depends, I think, on the level of suffering and frustration and on the level of determination to put out that fire. I'm acknowledging that there's validity to that, and I am acknowledging that some people really need that because of how hurt or crushed or exhausted they are. For some of us, everything I'm talking about just sounds like a lot of work, and quite honestly, it is work. Not only that, but you've got to do your own work. Nobody else can do it for you. This is where I have to hold up the mirror to myself. Everything I'm saying here applies to me too. I also need to identify my frequency and commitment to where and what I'm working on, and I also need to identify what are the top 3 things that I have to do to actually move myself closer to what I hope to experience in life. This YouTube channel is one of those priorities that I've started working on. I am also in the process of identifying the blockages and the fears and the perfectionism that kept me from showing my work to the world. So you can say we're all in this together. You can pick your relationship to yourself, to your partner, to your family, to your children. You can look at your childhood. You can look at grieving and grieving skills. You can look at boundaries. You can spend time investigating your obsessive thinking and your assumptions and judgments about how other people are treating you based upon the fantasy stories that you tell yourself. The simplest way to decide what to focus on is to look at where you're looping. If you are suffering from obsessive overthinking, let's say the loss of a relationship that ended months ago or years ago or decades ago, and yet you still find yourself looping into fueling fantasies of how you're one day going to get back together, know that that needs to be your focus. That's what you need to work on. Once you pick what you're working on, you need to identify what exactly you are going to be doing. What is the path that you're taking as you're running to seek out the pond? The next thing that you need is some form of self-accountability to turn to, but also encouragement and praise. That's the point of a community. We all need some way to receive encouragement and support. We do not heal in a vacuum. We don't heal in isolation. Inner work does not mean isolation. It does not mean doing everything for yourself by yourself on your own. This is an approach of how you orient and organize your plan of healing that is going to be highly influenced by the urgency and how willing you are to challenge the repetitious suffering that keeps occurring in your life. So in addition to mapping out the plan, we need encouragement and we need some sense of support, and that may translate into finding some other like-minded people, some community where you feel that you're held and that you're not doing it all by yourself. Let's hope you will find at least some of that support in the comments below. Alternatively, it might be a one-on-one partnership where you rally up with another person that feels right to you and with whom you might bounce back hang-ups and limiting patterns. Ideally, that would be some version of best friend or a therapist. Embrace the power of connection and let it propel you towards your goals with confidence and resilience. And remember, I'm also available to provide guidance and support as you navigate this journey. Whether you need help in mapping out your plan, overcoming challenges, or finding the right community, I'm here to assist you every step of the way. Together, we can create a path forward that is both fulfilling and successful.